Well, New York Times bestselling author Marcia is delving into one of the most shocking cases of the 1950s. The book is called Trial by Ambush: Murder, Injustice, and the Truth About the Case of Barbara Graham.
The world-famous prosecutor has just written her first true crime book. Marcia joining us right now. Good day, New York. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank
nice
you.
to have you back.
It's nice to be back. Thanks for having me.
So what is it with women and true crime? And I love it too. Why are we so fascinated with the genre now?
You know, I mean, I think it's women and men, honestly.
Yeah.
And, you know, whenever I talk about this, I think I'm one of you guys. You know, I'm right in there in that community that loves it and is obsessed with this. And I have been since I was a kid. And I do think it's kind of it's a puzzle. It's the ultimate puzzle. Why does somebody commit, especially the most heinous act of murder? I mean, how do you get that far, you know, into your whatever you're doing in your world, in your life, that you would do that? And then you think about how did the victim wind up there? There are so many mysteries involved in it. So it's kind of the ultimate puzzle, I think, that also has to do with our humanness, you know.
So what struck you about this particular case that you wanted to kind of delve into it?
Well, at first I didn't think I would. Honestly, I saw it mentioned in the course of like investigating another case, and then thought, well, let's check it out. And then I saw that it was like its own trial of the century back in 1953, and then I thought, okay, I'm not doing this because everybody's written about it already.
Right.
You know, why would I go there? But then as I started to look, I realized, well, people didn't write about it. Only the newspapers did during the trial, and all the newspapers painted her as this horrible villainess and this murderous
Her name is what, Barbara Graham?
Barbara Graham,
Yeah.
yeah. And she was beautiful. And I looked into her history, what little I could find. There was nothing like that in her past. She was nonviolent. Yes, she did misdemeanors. There was shoplifting, bad checks, and stuff like that. But the kind of thing that a person who's not making it would go through. And she had an impoverished life. I thought, something's not fitting here. This is not right. And that's what got me going. And it took about a year to amass all the materials because investigating a case that's 70 years old is no easy thing.
All right, so you've got a legal background. I'm going to ask you to tell us the facts of the case.
Okay, the facts of the case are this. Here's the setup. There was this, Mabel Monahan had been a vaudeville trooper. She was an amazing woman, and she was a major roller skater. She met her husband, who was a major ice skater. They were a duet that performed all over the country during vaudeville days. Her daughter married this casino entrepreneur, Tudor Scherer. They eventually divorced, but he's a very wealthy man. He gave his ex-wife in the settlement this house in Burbank. Well, she didn't want it. She gave it to her mom, Mabel Monahan. It was the first time she'd ever lived in a house because she lived in hotels around the country. She loved it, but she was very security conscious. There became a rumor that she remained close with her ex-son-in-law, the casino entrepreneur, who would stash money in her house. And so the criminal elements in Burbank, oh she's going to be easy to knock over.
Right.
So they did, and they kept casing it over a period of a couple of years. Never really got there. And then they decided on this fateful day, we're going to do it. But we need somebody to get her to open the door. Who would be?
It's Barbara Graham.
Barbara Graham. She's
Okay.
petite, she's pretty, and she just knew how to say, oh, my car broke down. Can you just let me in to use the phone? And then she did, and then the men rushed after her. So, and then she was strangled, she was pistol whipped, she was beaten.
Wow.
The house was turned upside down, there was blood on the walls. They really, literally ripped up the carpeting, broke through walls, looking for the safe that was supposedly there. They went even through Mabel's closet, and they dumped out all of the purses, and nothing. The police show up. They find that the door's ajar, which is weird, and then, of course, they find her body. She'd been strangled to death. It was horrifying. And then they find a purse hanging in her closet that had hundreds of dollars of cash and all of this jewelry. And it looked like a robbery. It looked like a burglary, but what's all that still doing
Right, they didn't
here?
take
Right.
it. Yeah.
What happened?
So, yeah. So the cops not only had no physical evidence to prove who did it, they didn't now know why they did it because, I mean, it was all still left there.
So did they miss it? Did they miss the bag?
Yeah.
They missed the
They
bag.
missed the bag. They missed the bag.
Wow.
It's a crazy, just the way the whole crime went down
Right.
is in itself a story and in itself, you know, a whole thing. But then how they investigated and how they ultimately captured the people who did it, that was a whole trip in itself.
So
and it
this
wound up.
is one of those crazy LA crime stories.
Yes.
You obviously, with the OJ case, was involved in one. I want to ask you one that's back in the news now, is the Menendez brothers trial.
Yes, yes.
There's some debate because there's an election, and so the guy who was the DA before, who said, hey, I'll look at it again, is no longer the DA, so the new guy's coming in. What's your take on this? Do you think they're going to get clemency and get time served and be allowed to be free?
I don't know. I didn't handle this one, so I'm not on the inside of it. I can't even pretend that I know, what the real story is there. All I can say is, it does seem that, they get famous and then people start looking, and it kind of, you have to remember, there's a lot of people serving life without who did not kill anyone.
Who aren't famous.
Yeah, who weren't famous, exactly. And so the DA and the judge has to think about that. What's special about these guys? I understand they were abused, and I think we think about that differently today than back then. And so, of course, that has to be factored in. But there's a lot of people in prison who were abused too.
Right.
You've got to think about that. If you let them out, think about who else deserves to be out. I think they have to think about all these things.
Do you think the fact that so many family members have come out and said, we think that they should be let out, will play a factor into it, or the judge will ignore that?
I think they will. I think that matters, and it should. I mean, for anybody who's up for parole, it always matters that you have a community to get back to. You have a family who cares about you. That is important, but it's not decisive, so we'll see.
In the meantime, congratulations. The new book is out right now, Trial by Ambush. Marcia Clark, always great talking to you.
Yes, thank you
so
for coming
much.
in. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much, guys. It was a pleasure.
Okay, you're going to love this. One of Shakespeare's classics is coming to the modern age, an adaptation of The Merchant of Venice. And it brings the play from the festivals of old onto the set of a late-night talk show, modernizing it.
And look at this video, though. It's actually from the show. It's been adapted and produced by award-winning director Igor Golyak and stars Emmy-nominated actor T.R. Knight. We welcome them both to the Good Day stage. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
Before I get to you, T.R., Igor, I got to ask you this. You're reinterpreting Shakespeare as a late-night talk show with guys hanging upside down and bubble machines and puppets and all this kind of stuff. Where did this idea come from?
It's all in the text.
That was the original?
That is the original. The question is, what does it mean to be to have an original? What was original in Shakespeare's time and what was revolutionary in Shakespeare's time, what he revolutionized, is something that if we were to repeat what they did there, it would be just a museum piece. It wouldn't touch us. So how do we translate the themes of Shakespeare, what touches people then and now, and translate it to today's theatrical language. The language of Shakespeare is the same, but the theatrical language needs adaptation. The theatrical language needs to be recreated.
T.R., is that what drew you to this? Because this is obviously very different than most 400-year-old plays you see.
Yes, yeah. The Shakespearean bubble machines were just huge, so you can't get them. Yes, I think so. Seeing Our Class, which was, they did just, most of the company was in Our Class, and seeing that was, it was incredible. And so it excited me to join this. Me and another cast member joined the company that already existed for Our Class.
So it's not your first foray into theater. You've done that a bunch of times in New York.
Yes.
But this one is different.
Yeah.
Is there a certain amount of pressure? Who do you play in the play?
I play Antonio, who's the merchant who, Shylock, our, he is the one who, tries to cut a pound of my flesh. But it's just such a fascinating group of people. The actors are so imaginative, so inventive. The stage management team led by Kira Bowie and the running crew, it's just this group of people is so, I don't know, just the most hardworking, inventive group that I have been lucky to work with.
So, is it Shakespearean dialect? I mean, when we go there, are we going to have to work hard to understand everything?
It is Shakespeare's original language. We did add there is some ad-libbing. Well, there's a monologue that TR does in the beginning of the show to create the context.
Yeah, yeah.
Can you give us a little bit, TR? A
Oh,
little bit. A little bit.
I see. But you saw me hanging upside down. That
Yes,
happens. That
okay.
happens in the opening bit. I get
Okay.
caught up in a prop, and we get inverted.
The original is it's described in the first quattro as a comedy of where Shylock, with the extreme cruelty of Shylock the Jew, as described in the first. It's very anti-Semitic.
Right.
It's extremely.
How do you like deal with that? Controversial.
We don't shy away from it. We actually expose. We expose the anti-Semitism of this play, and then there is a devastating ending. There's so we go full in on the comedy and the charisma of this group of people, of lovers, of good versus evil. We have Batman, we have Mission Impossible. They're saving each other, the good versus the bad, and then at the end you start to you start to understand or try to understand what is good and what is bad and how it's switched around.
Is this targeted for young people in particular to kind of get them into the theater?
Maybe.
Just with all the craziness. Because you don't think about that when you think Shakespeare.
Yeah, you don't. But they're people in love, and they say Shakespearean language, but they love each other, and they want to rescue the other person. So what does a rescue look like in a comedy-like world of today? It is Mission Impossible.
Right, okay.
But it's also exciting because, like, if you, the language it can sound like it. We were talking before, like it can sound like it was written yesterday. It can be that immediate. It doesn't have to be this stuffy, dust-covered. It can be vibrant and new and engaging, and that's the goal. That's the thing that is so fascinating to chase with Shakespeare.
All right, I'm going to try to get you out of my mind from Grey's Anatomy and just be like, okay, TR, I'm going to see you.
Here's the issue, though. That show was 20 plus years ago when you were on. He still looks the same.
You
No,
do.
that's not true.
Yes, you do.
You're very kind. I see the wrinkles.
All right, so how can we see the show?
Yes.
You can see the show at Classic Stage Company. We're running through December 22nd, I believe.
Down in East Village.
Yes, and TR is incredibly funny and very tragic at the end. It's just an incredible role.
Okay.
Everyone's
We
just
will see it just before the holidays.
I love it.
Thank you so much for both of you for joining us today. Good luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.